Hello, everybody. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is in theaters now, and joining me today to talk about it in some detail is my friend Matthew Code. Welcome, Matt.
Hey guys, how are you doing?
Welcome to the channel. And this is another warning. We're going to be talking about spoilers for Quantumania, so if you haven't seen it yet, go check it out. You probably already are going to the theater. I mostly enjoyed Quantumania. I thought it was a fun film. It has some issues, and I do know that everyone agrees with this opinion of mine.
No, we were joking around right before that, like it's a movie that everyone loves. There's gonna be like no issues talking about this one.
Absolutely not. Everyone's happy.
I liked it as well. We came out of the screening with similar thoughts. I gave it a 7 out of 10. So I had some issues like with we'll get into details, but first of all, with some parts of the ending. Also in
Mhm.
terms of pacing, like the movie takes a while to get going. We definitely needs like Kang was the big highlight. Everyone seems to agree with that, and that's like a definite. Like Kang
Mhm.
was the big star of this movie, so it takes a while to see him, and for that reason, the movie also takes a while to get going. Two of the supporting characters, I like Cassie Lang as a whole, and in fact, I'm saying I like her, but I'm not sure I liked her as much as I I wish I did, because in the first two movie, the little girl was such like a sweetheart. She was like a big part of like why the relationship between Scott Lang and her daughter was working. So now it's different to seeing her grown up. But the problem was maybe the way the character was handled. Anyway, that's one of my issues. But overall, like I described it as the Star Wars prequel. We talked about that, but it's like a trip to space opera. You have weird, slimy aliens, Michael Douglas stuffing his hand into like the spaceship. That all those weird things that made you appreciate the spectacle a little bit more than I thought I would. Like, anyway, that's my overall thought at first. Yeah, yeah.
Kang is the universally loved thing in this movie. Everyone
Mm,
seems to really like Jonathan Majors, and he's fantastic. Can't wait to see more of him. Getting to him definitely took a while, and
mm.
I said this in my review as well. It felt like we were doing teaser trailers to get to Kang, not so
Yeah, I
much
know
for
it.
setting up stuff. Where we had these characters who were coming in, and they're constantly like, "Oh, he's coming. There's this thing that we're building to," and after a while, it got a little grating to the point where it was like, all right, we're about 30 minutes in. We're still hearing he's coming, you know?
I mean, just like that, imagine someone who just missed the first scene because you see him at the beginning. Like, there's a 2 minute scene with him and Michelle Pfeiffer's character, and then like someone comes in, missed that scene, and just has no idea that Kang is in the movie. Like, it must have been a long drag, like for a while, because they mention him, but you're wondering where this is going. And as much as I did love that trip, like you meeting all those weird characters and everything, Bill Murray was a fun part. I like the part where they bring like Scott Lang to drink this red liquid, and that makes them understand the alien language. That was a great like they do those nice things in the movie that makes me like appreciate the spectacle a little bit more. Yeah, Kang is the moment where it shifts in full gear, and Jonathan Majors does not disappoint at all. Like he's gonna be a big star, and we already seeing it. Magazine Dreams and Creed 3 that's coming up this year. Like, but just with the Avengers, I feel like we're not done seeing him, and I loved everything I saw, but almost everything. We'll get to that.
I like the connection that they established between him and Janet, which,
Mm-hmm.
by the way, Janet has a huge role in
Yeah.
this movie. And it's funny because I saw someone else say, make a remark earlier about how the movie's called Ant-Man and the Wasp, and it's like the Wasp, the Evangeline Lilly Wasp, is a lot more to the sidelines, but Janet's on the front lines, and I was like, oh, maybe that's the Wasp they're alluding to over
That's actually a great. Yeah, that's good. That's a good observation.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, she was really great in the movie.
The moment she goes there, she's like scared shitless. Sorry, I don't know if I can say that, but she's really scared. No, but and the way like every time like she's trying to hide, and there's you can see the threat of Kang laying around just with those spaceship and the blue lights that's trying to scan them, trying to search someone, and all the army with all those blue guys. Like, I mean, obviously it's the same thing with faceless armies from Marvels that you can just beat up, and it's a purpose for action for sure, but it was still a way to show that Kang like was pulling strings while he was not on screen for the first act. So that's something I appreciate as well. Hank Pym, I love what they did with Michael Douglas walking around getting his paycheck. I have no issues with that, but you can tell he was still having fun. My best moment was at the end, like when he just comes up with the army of ants, and that was just so satisfying. Like that was an Hank moment that I was really, and it was so funny the fact that you could see the whole civilization that was made like in in the span of time, and the ants become so smart. That was really fun. I really liked that detail.
So let's talk about MODOK. So it's Darren
Yeah,
from Ant-Man, the first one. It's
it's
Yellow
Darren.
Jacket.
It's Darren, all
Um,
right. Yeah, it's
it's
Darren.
it's certainly Darren, and
It's Darren.
the film very much grounds that by the time you're
Yeah.
done. So MODOK when he shows up, I like the suit, I like the helmeted look. Then his helmet comes off.
That's the problem. It looks super
Walk us
cool.
walk us through the reaction you had to
Yeah.
that.
Okay, the exact. Okay, listen. This is exactly how it happened. Two seats
Okay.
behind me was like I don't know, another person. I'm not gonna say what it was, but from the moment the element was on, I loved it. It looked super cool, and I saw some images online before because there was a trailer that you could spot him, and I was like, maybe it's just it's stretched out, whatever. I was like, we'll see when it happens. But the moments the face, the helmet comes off, it was horrible. I was just the girl behind me was like, what? And that's exactly what I was thinking to myself. Like, I'm sure, like, I understand you've been saying it, like, you think, like, there's no other way they could have done that, but I don't know. It's so bad when the helmet is off, but when the helmet is on and you can see his little legs, I love that. But yeah,
Okay,
that was
so
my thoughts.
I will say this, like when it I had a feeling when the helmet came off. I knew what I was expecting beneath it. And in my head I was thinking like how are you going to do this in live action? You know, because I know MODOK from the comics. I know from they even did a TV show a couple of years ago with Patton Oswalt as the voice. And I know it's like big, giant, squished head in a tiny
Yeah,
arms and legs.
yeah.
There's only so far like I can see that going in live action, and so the helmet comes off, and I know this is a press screening, and we're gonna to the audience watching, guys. Press screenings are usually very silent, professional places.
Yeah.
I almost started laughing, so
Yeah, but I
because
mean, when I have a laugh, I'm not good. Like I'm gonna laugh, but
I
this is why, like I was saying, I was so
but
surprised.
I was like holding it like this, like oh god, I cannot do this.
Yeah.
Like we got
Let it out, let it out. Next time, just let it out. He
but
deserves it.
the
The problem is, I feel like it was completely intentional to make it
oh,
funny, like
absolutely.
because so that's my problem. Like they didn't took it
Yeah, yeah.
seriously, and I know he's a bit like it's not exactly a character that you could 100% take seriously, like because like you said, he's a giant head squashed into like this helmet, but in some ways it was too much. Like his face is like stretched out. It's the design that was horrible. It was just it's uncanny. You just can't get over it. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's this it's been circling around Twitter. I've seen it times and times again, but that gif from Cassie from the first Ant-Man, she's like, it's so ugly, I love it. That's exactly how I feel about MODOK. I also
That
think
was
we're gonna see him again. I also think like he's not 100% done because it's the Marvel universe. Never kill, like they never kill anyone.
Yeah, that's
So
no. I was agreeing with you on the no because I was trying to think because in fact I said this after the
yeah.
screening too. It was like this is the multiverse. I'm sure they'll figure out a way to weave him back in somehow because MODOK in the comics and even the video game that came out a few years ago that there is a serious side to him. The guy has a lot of very
Yeah.
intense knowledge that can really mess up with the mess with the Avengers. And so I think that there is that side still. In this particular case, we got the universe version of him, which is Darren.
By the way, I went to see it a second time
Mhm.
yesterday, and my friend loved it. So I feel like most people liked it, but it's not like universally loved. Clearly not.
Mhm.
But it's also not one of my favorite like Ant-Man movie. The first one is still my favorite Ant-Man,
Mhm.
but I liked it better than the second one.
For sure.
Personally,
Yeah, I would rank it 1, 3, 2 as well.
yeah.
So let's get into the meat of it because it takes until the second half of this movie to really pick up. Once Kang enters the scene, I was not particularly loving the movie up until Kang showed up. And once
Mhm.
we got him, once we got the origin with him, I was in, and the last about 45 minutes, hour or so with him I was having a pretty solid time. One thing that I was thinking of in terms of like a great sequence, to the movie, if you want to remember something, was the stuff with the probability storm.
Oh, I was gonna mention that. Totally, yeah, totally agree with
Yeah.
that. For all the crap they get for visual effects, that was a great display because it's really
Mhm.
we keep saying psychedelic, but that's what it was. Like all those complex
Mhm.
patterns and multicolored like things. But it's one of those sequences that it sticks in your mind. Like seeing all of those cut lengths and he's fighting and he hears Cassie's voice, so that's what make him like grab. So I love that sequence. I agree with that. Yeah.
The sequence was fantastic. And yes, about the CGI, it goes through these variations in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I thought the background stuff looked great. Like
Mm-hmm.
all the world stuff, like the ooey stuff and all that.
It's exactly. It
Yeah.
depends. It depends what they're trying to do. So
Yeah.
most of the time, they're gonna have like those close-ups of a character that
Mhm.
speaks behind those CGI backgrounds, and the
Mhm.
lighting is gonna be a little bit off.
Yeah.
It's not gonna work out, and definitely those things they're not gonna age well. You're gonna watch that movie
Mhm.
10 years from now. It's not gonna age well. That's 100%
Mhm.
a fact. But there's also
Mhm.
those sequences where the first time they meet those aliens that Janet, sorry, is it Janet? I keep forgetting. I'm so bad
Yeah.
with my Janet. So she knew them before. So they have those
Yeah.
this little fight that they have, and the spaceship that comes to them, it just goes divided them and keeps circling around them. All those
Mhm.
little details are really cool to look at. So
Yeah.
special effects are really hit and miss for me with them. MODOK
Mhm.
horrible, but then again they have some
Mhm.
stuff that are super great in the background, like little
Mhm.
details that you keep spot. There's always something moving in the background.
Mhm.
Other problem that I had is the editing. So sometimes they have some problem with the conversations, like people talking, and at some point the characters at one place. Then you notice that it's not at the same place that they were before. That happens in movies. That's totally normal. But it was an issue for me rewatching that movie the second time. I was noticing that a lot here and there during conversations.
And I appreciate like the effort that they tried to make in those sequences. I mean, most of what we're talking about is in that part leading up to it, that
Yeah,
first act,
yeah, yeah,
which is
yeah.
so frustrating. And I mean, it really knocked the movie down a few points for me. But like the whole tone changes when you get to that second half,
Mm,
and it becomes the Kang show, which it is interesting because if the first half of the movie is Ant-Man, and then the second half is basically Kang featuring guest star Ant-Man,
yeah.
but eventually by the time we get to the ending of the movie, which I like the hook of it. I kept thinking, what exactly would it be that finally gets, Scott to be like, I'm coming after you for this. And I thought it has to be
Hmm.
something to do with Cassie. Like, Kang has to have done something.
Hmm.
And so I appreciate that, okay, he's got her, him, MODOK and Kang have her, and so he turns into Giant Man, and you have this really awesome sequence where he's entering, along with that rebellion, which we haven't talked about, by the
Yeah,
way.
yeah. Very Star Wars once again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like they weren't developed as much as I was hoping they would be because it's a
It
big
was
part of
just
it.
it was just Cassie coming up on that big screen and giving
Yeah.
the little pep talk, and everyone was like, "Hey,
Hmm.
rebellion!" So
Yeah.
need a little bit more flesh and bones there, probably.
Hmm. It was kind of like it was kind of reminding me of a version of the scene in Andor where the end is Marva Andor and she's
I
talking
still haven't
down.
finished it. I still haven't finished it, but I mean,
Okay.
it's something we've saw before in Star
Okay,
Wars,
okay,
like the.
okay.
But it's okay. No, no, no. You can say it.
Not a spoiler. Don't worry. I'm
All right.
gonna say it in a very like
Yeah,
controlled
yeah, yeah.
way.
But this is a
Hmm.
sequence that like didn't sold me. Like I didn't believe
Hmm.
that our speech was good enough for everyone to go like, all right, let's face that big guy Kang.
Hmm.
Like her speech didn't really like rile me up, if I would say so.
Hmm.
Yeah,
I think the part that really got them riled up was like, oh, we're in his building. I think that's the part they heard, and
right,
they were like, oh,
right.
okay,
Yeah, yeah,
that's something that we'll work off of
yeah.
that.
They really made him a threat, a giant threat, and you could see like the little flashback the moment Janet touched the spaceship, and you could see what he could do. Like he becomes a really scary character. My only issues is a little bit how he's defeated by the end,
Yeah.
but part of that was answered in the post credit scene afterworld. But
Hmm.
I still had some issues with the fact that it ends with a fist fight, and
Hmm.
there you go. Because I love that version of Kang.
I like the bit before we get to that
Yeah,
because
yeah,
eventually when Giant Scott Lang he takes down the machinery,
Yeah,
He's like, all right, matters in my own hands, and he goes down and he's pretty much starting to wipe out the rebellion single-handedly.
yeah.
And I thought, okay, now this is the threat that we know is going to be in the next,
Mm.
phase of the MCU. And then Hank Pym coming in with the ant, civilization and whatever, and sort of
I love that.
disrupting Kang. Yeah, sort of
Yeah.
disrupting Kang. I was like, okay, you know what, fine. But yeah, from there it basically goes into a very basic fist fight with him.
Mm.
The way that we've seen him up until that point, I can understand why some folks would see that and go, well, we know if he just manages to do a couple of things, like there's a point of time where he stops Janet, like
Mhm.
he freezes
Exactly.
her,
Exactly.
So I was like, I know you have the power to do this. There's a point where he
And
pushes
it was
Modok into a wall.
the movie makes it very clear that it's so important for him to get through that portal and get out of there. So why does he take so many time, like wasting time talking with Scott? Like, look, it's the classic thing. Like the villain is talking, and then someone, another character is gonna come out, and so I
Yeah.
mean that little part of it was a little bit predictable. So the more he was talking, I was like, all right, clearly, he's not gonna make it, and everyone's gonna be happy. Also, what I loved is that when they killed him, for a second there, I was thinking that Scott Lang and Hope would be stuck in the quantum realm. I also loved that aspect, like, whoa, what's gonna happen to them? And then Cassie, jumped on the computer and solved that problem. So that's another thing that I was not that in love with about the ending. But what I loved is the last moment that circles back to the opening with Scott. He's just walking around, but he's trying to convince himself that he beat Kang and that everything is okay. But the more he thinks about it, he's like, did we really beat him? We beat him, right?
Yeah.
I love that part because obviously he knows that it's not over. So that's something I really loved about the ending.
I feel like the whole third act is set up in that, listen, we know he's going to be in the next phase going forward. So we can't have him be victorious immediately because that would mean the movie's over, the MCU is over, because the whole plan that they've seen sort of outlined from Kang is that he can wipe out all the heroes.
Yeah.
And we get that moment where he's like, have I killed you before? And it's like, are you the one with the hammer? Like, I was like, oh, so you have killed the Avengers in some timeline. So when you look at it from that way, it's like, obviously, if he steps into 616, the universe that we know, he's gonna wipe out everything. So I feel like they can't do that yet because then it's too early to jump the gun. Very Tron Legacy in that way, because
That's right.
I was thinking about it. I was like, this reminds me of something, because the whole finale of Tron Legacy is also built around trying to stop Clue getting to the portal.
Yeah, that's right.
And except in this case, Kevin Flynn also gets out, but it's like, except not in Tron Legacy. I mean, look, they've set up enough that I'm interested in what it is going forward. But I also kept thinking after watching it, I think it's a good time now to take a break, figure out what you want to do, especially like visually, because I thought this is the one where I really felt like they were strained.
I don't know how many projects, series, movies they released last year, but it was maybe one too many. So what happens now is they I don't know. I've been saying that Phase 4 was not my favorite, but there's some highlights in there. Wakanda Forever was a great film, and it's the last one that they released. So if I compared it to what they released in the Phase 4, I really like Quantumania. Like, it's middle ground. If it was a Phase 4 movie, it would be middle ground for me. But it's still not on par with the standards that they've been setting for the past few years, because we've been used to like cohesive storytelling and characters showing up that we love. As much as the movie had its issues, I don't feel like it deserve his critic score, but that's another discussion. But I feel like people are just like, all right, we're a little bit tired of this.
Which makes sense. I think the worst example of this, the one I come back to the most when I'm talking about the Phase 4 especially, was I remember Moon Knight ended on Wednesday. I think it was May 3rd or something like that. May 4th evening, I was in a theater for Multiverse of Madness. And I was like, oh my God, we're less than 48 hours. We are in the next.
That was too much. And
it really hits immediately, because I remember my dad that very same weekend was like, oh, I want to go see Multiverse of Madness. And I was like, oh yeah, sure. He couldn't come for that first show. But he was also watching Moon Knight. So he was like, do I have to finish Moon Knight to get to Multiverse Man? I was like, no, no, you don't. You're fine. You
Yeah.
know, overall, I don't think this is the worst MCU movie or one of
No,
the worst.
no. They've done
No,
so much worse in the past. Like,
didn't. We got to talk about the first, especially the first post-credit scene.
yeah.
We see the Council of Kang with a panel recreated from the comics, which I found out about later.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, no, that whole football stadium
Cool.
thing was Super Bowl thing was pretty much from a comic.
Do you notice the teleporter that they use is the same from Multiverse of Madness? The one that
Mhm.
yeah, Reed Richards comes in with the same teleporter. Anyway, it's just a small detail that
Yeah.
I saw that was pretty cool. But yeah, that I love the fact that we're gonna see more from Kang's and that it implies that you know Kang died in the past, so that's okay that he died in this movie. There's more version of Kang, and that right now they're aware that the Avengers might be onto them, so that like they need to act right now. That's something I liked about that first
Mhm.
credit scene. Yeah.
The only thing I'm worried about is that are we going to get a new introduction to Kang with every movie? I don't know if I'm into that because I'm hoping that once now whatever we've got set up so far, I'm like we don't need to go to every new
Mm,
project. Like I guess he's next going to be in Loki season 2,
mm.
but we don't need to go to every single thing and be like, oh, I'm Kang, I'm also Kang. Here's what I do. Here's what I do. It's like I mean,
Yeah.
we don't need an introduction every single
You
time.
know
I
what I would
think.
love that the Kang that just died come into this council and just like annihilate all of them, and now we have like one Kang that we can relate to, and this is the
Mhm.
Kang that's gonna move the
Mhm.
storyline forward. Because you're right, it's confusing. You get a Kang. Is it the same Kang that was in Loki, the one that was in Quantumania? I don't know.
No,
I couldn't even.
no,
No,
it
okay.
was not. It was not. So in
So yeah,
Loki, it was He Who Remains.
yeah,
It's a variant of his. And
yeah.
then when he dies, he's the one who's holding time together, and then that's
Mhm.
what releases all the variants. And so that causes the multiversal, infractions to happen. And I'm excited to see what more comes with Kang. I'm excited for Loki season 2 because you get the scene with
Oh,
the
that's the
scientists.
second one. I love the second one a little bit more than the first one because
Mhm.
Loki was one of my favorite Disney show they did with WandaVision, and
Mhm.
the fact that I think it's a variant. It's called Victor Timely, or I don't
Big
remember the
time,
name that
like.
they gave him, but that's gonna be fun to see in the next season because that
Mhm.
version of Kang, I don't think he knows what happened in the future. So or maybe he does. We'll see. But yeah, really like
Okay.
that post credit scene. Like I said, it's a 7 out of 10. A bit surprised by the discourse right now, but at the same time, is it really a surprise?
Mhm.
Not really, but I liked it overall. Special effects, it's basically everything is hit and miss. Like you have some part
Mhm.
of it that really works. Kang was awesome, but at the same time, you have MODOK. So the movie keeps doing that. There's some visual effects that are super interesting to watch, and at the same time, you have MODOK. So basically, MODOK is the problem in the movie.
I
It's
know.
weird when you think about it.
I know. It's like this and Eternals, and it's funny because these are the two movies that I can think of in the MCU, whereas like they tried the weird thing and it
Yeah.
didn't quite land. I'm curious what the reaction going forward will be though, because I feel like Eternals got a revisionism a little bit after Disney Plus, and I feel like that might happen a little bit with Quantumania. We'll find out soon enough.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, overall, most people, I think they just think it's fine or it's just good. But
Mhm.
so I don't think like I've seen some people saying like it's gonna get cult status. I'm I'm not seeing that
No,
happening with this movie at all. But it's something that people might see and be like, oh, it's not as bad as people were saying.
I feel
That's what.
like I feel like the word cult is misunderstood. Cult status
Yeah,
happens. Cult
yeah.
status happens when you bomb. This movie is all about to make more than $200 million opening weekend.
I know, but
So,
I actually saw that comment on the internet.
yeah.
Overall, it's basically like a Saturday morning cartoon. It felt like reading
Mhm.
a comic book most of all. But you can say that about all of Marvel movies. But it was just a fun. I liked it. I know it's the F word, the fun word is like
Mhm.
blasphemy, but it was fun. So I liked
Very
it.
entertaining.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. So, thank you so much for coming on the channel,
Yes,
Matthew,
man.
and definitely. And where can we find you?
Yeah, I have my YouTube channel. It's Mathieu Cote. It's my name, or my website, takeaside.ca.
All right. Awesome. And the links to that are in the description down below. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you guys thought about Quantumania. Let us know. Hopefully, gonna do more stuff like this in the future. Get people onto the channel. Can't wait to talk more. And until next time, please do subscribe if you haven't yet. And we'll see you at the movies.
Subscribe to him. He's awesome.
And we'll see you guys at the movies.
Yeah, a good one.